We're here with the powerful revolutionary and a poverty scholar. You introduce yourselves?
Joe Willson, Executive Director, Hospitality House.
All right. Can you tell us what you're doing in Trickster Hall today? I mean, City Hall.
We are pushing the city supervisors to invest in the people of San Francisco, to put more money to deal with homelessness and poverty in San Francisco. It is unfortunate that we have to come and beg for justice, but every year that's what we do, and we're going to keep doing it until the elected officials own up to their responsibility to invest more resources in the people of San Francisco.
What do you think the climate is this year specifically? I mean, I've heard something about cuts. The last minute they were talking in the hall about how somebody went back on a promise. What's your vibe on it?
I think that there are always competing priorities. And one of the challenges for organizers is to make sure that we put a face on the problem, that government in its best is about making choices. Choices have consequences. Consequences have names and faces. And every day we're seeing the consciousness of the city erode. And I think that what's happened with displacement and gentrification in our neighborhoods, where hardworking people can't afford to raise families here, that people of color can't afford to live in this city, the inverse of displacement is entrapment, and increasingly people can't afford to stay, but they can't afford to leave either. And so we have these concentrated pockets of despair and broken dreams, and that really is what we're about.
Shay, could you just tell listeners and viewers too, as I call you a poverty scholar, a fellow who's been through this, you just gave a little hit of, why you got into this? What's your a little brief history?
Well, I think it's especially important for people to feel not only connected to a community, but to build a community around each individual. And this community has cared for me, nurtured me, inspired me, motivated me for more than half my life. And so it's an honor to be in a position where I can give at least some of that back, but I also want to make sure that I do justice by the other stories that don't get told, that aren't in the spotlight, like the Johns of the world who have been on the street in and out of homelessness for 35 years, and still in this city of San Francisco, it doesn't seem like that story actually matters. We want to do justice by that and make sure that people don't forget that it is real lives at stake here with decisions that are made or not made.
And that's also, in terms of your experience of homelessness, it's a really hard question for folks like us who've been through it. Why do we sort of quote unquote move out, and why do a lot of our brothers and sisters not? Where the trauma lies. I don't know what your feeling is on that.
Well, I don't know that I would hold myself up as an example. I had a lot of people take an interest in me, some who are no longer with us. Leroy Looper, who was a giant in the Tenderloin for decades. Bill Sorrow, who was a mentor and hero to so many of us. People like that. Yori Wada, who was a longtime activist in Japantown. Inspirational people. And so I feel very fortunate to have my life touched by people like that. And I also know that, it's a struggle that often doesn't have any specific source, but once you've experienced it, it stays with you. It alters your view of what's possible in this society, in our world, the relative value or lack thereof that's placed on human life. And that takes its toll in lots of different ways, and I would not pretend to judge people for struggling and grappling with that for decades.
Ashe, thank you so much.